If it's tough for the German economy at the moment, it's even tougher for Isa Karadenitz. Like thousands of others, he's afraid of losing his job. He's clinging on to the hope that the Butzweilerhof training centre in Cologne will help him get the skills to see out what's predicted to be the country's worst economic crisis for decades. In November, Europe's biggest economy became the second EU country to go into recession. Isa Karadenitz still has a job, well, a contract at least. He's been a temp with the giant employment agency Adecco for 2 years and worked at the Ford car plant. When recession began to bite there, Ford laid off 500 temporary staff. But Isa, who was born in Cologne, has his heart set on getting a German passport.
It's important for me to stay in work and to have a regular income, especially right now. I applied for German citizenship. I still have to wait some weeks before getting my documents, and in the meantime I shouldn't be out of work. I've already had to send in payslips several times. It would be really bad for me to lose my job right now.
The number of workers employed through temp agencies in Germany shot up in recent years, but some researchers reckon up to a third of them will lose their jobs this year. The German authorities are putting their faith in training. Most politicians believe the worst will be over next year by investing heavily in professional qualification schemes. They hope to be in a position to hit the ground running once the economy starts to grow again. Isa hopes to end up a master craftsman. The figures show that more than half the temporary workforce change jobs every 3 months or less. Even so, Isa still believes he'll find permanent work.
Temp work means the agency puts you in with companies where you should get a chance to join the permanent staff in the long term.
But according to the giant union IG Metall, even during the boom, just 1 out of 10 temporary workers managed to leave an agency contract for a company's permanent payroll. And it's worse now. The temps are the first to go.
Die Zeitarbeitnehmer in Deutschland
Temps in Germany are mostly younger employees from 25 to 35, and a big proportion of them have no professional qualifications, youngsters from migrant families. Right now, the temp contracts are cancelled first. Temp workers are out on the streets, and that is socially explosive.
Dann ist das sozialer Sprengstoff.
Most German cities are home to substantial communities of migrant workers. Of Cologne's 1 million inhabitants, the figure is about 300,000. But unemployment hits the migrant population twice as hard as the rest of the workforce.
Temp agencies should keep their staff, and if jobs are scarce, they should declare short-time work, use what is on offer at the job centre, start qualification programmes.
Companies can put their staff on what's called short time when things get tough. The government helps with social security contributions, and although wages are lower, at least they have a job for when times get better.
Until now, temporary employment agencies could not take part in short-time working schemes. They had to shoulder the risk of not getting enough orders while having to keep employees on the payroll. But as this crisis came out of the blue, we said, well, let's support the temporary agencies by allowing them short-time working schemes too.
So in Cologne, they're running a pilot project called Short Time Plus to get agency employees without work into training. But the 253 workers on the scheme appear to be just a drop in the ocean.
If we can pour 10, 20 such drops into the ocean, that's 20,000 employees who won't be on social benefits.
But not all employees find the agency experience a good one. Harold Elter joined one of the thousands of temp agencies in 2001. But after falling badly on black ice, he was taken to hospital. 2 days later, he got a letter.
I opened it and read it and I was shocked. It was a termination agreement, but I never signed one. I looked closely at the date and thought, how's this possible? I was flat on my back in A&E at the time. It was impossible for me to sign a termination agreement on the same day 40 kilometres away. The way they handled my case stank to high heaven. At the Labour court, no one believed that either, that a man can be in two places at the same time. I'd have to have been better than Superman.
Elter says he worked for several temping agencies and was the subject of many underhand tactics, including being kept on multiple periods of probation to keep his pay as low as possible. He knows the EU have recently adopted a directive on equal pay, but says it's not a reality yet.
In practice, no temp agency is respecting the EU directive. Quite the opposite. They want to cut pay even further.
In Germany, temporary agency workers get on average 29% less than colleagues permanently contracted to do the same job.
As far as the so-called equal pay for temporary workers is concerned, detailed in the EU directive, there are scandalous conditions here in Germany. Equal pay actually does not exist. Right now, we're fighting for a minimum wage for unqualified workers in the metal and electrical industries of €7.40. Staff workers doing the same job get 13 to 15 euros.
Eher bei 13 bis 15 Euro angesiedelt.
As a temp, you can be fired this evening or in the morning. That's modern-day slavery. Once upon a time, being a slave, you got the stick. Today, you get a pittance, just enough to buy some simple food, but you're kept on a short leash. Temporary agency work, that means being beaten down and destroyed. In my opinion, temp work is just modern slavery.
The Adecco boss is furious about Elter's nightmare with other agencies. He says there are rogue companies in the temporary job business which tarnish the good name of reputable firms. But he has a balanced opinion of the EU directive on equal pay.
Of course, we want to implement a minimum wage, but not by law. The minimum wage should match our business. If the EU directive leads to a minimum wage, it's a step in the right direction for Germany. The image of temping agencies will improve. But looking at our business, you have to see the whole picture. During the last 4 or 5 years, we were a real driving force, transforming people who were on benefits into taxpayers.
20 out of the 27 EU member states have improved their rules for bringing in equal pay. Belgium, Netherlands, Austria, France and the Scandinavian countries all have strong laws to guarantee it. German legislation embraces the principle, but even so it's peppered with loopholes. The idea of equal pay in Germany still appears a good way off.